Thanks for joining me again. My name's Freddie. Thank you for watching the past two videos. I hope that the content we've covered has been helpful for you as we talked about commission individually and in families, and then in community groups. In this video, we just have some stories. We have examples of people from different walks of life, from different age groups that have sought to be intentional. They didn't add more. They were just more intentional in the way they lived, in the way they talked to people, in the activities they pursued, and they sought to find ways to talk about Jesus with the people that they already knew. Our vision as a church is multiplication. That's what we want to be about. We want to make disciples through the multiplication of healthy local churches across Canada and the world. But that's the big picture vision. At the individual level, at the level of the groups, our vision is discipleship. We want to see people grow. We want to see them look more like Jesus. And these 4 C's are ways that we do that: content, care, connection, and commission. In these videos, we focused on commission because as we look around our church, I think there's lots of things we're really good at here at Northview. But there's a few things we have room to grow in, and commission is one of them. As a church, we need to be more intentional about reaching other people with the name of Jesus, particularly in our current climate with so much fear around COVID and gathering and uncertainty about the future. Luke is going to interview a few people and tell us some stories of what they did.
Hi, I'm Luke. I'm the high school pastor here at Northview. Been here for a couple years, and I am interviewing CODY FRIESEN. CODY, why don't you tell our community groups a little bit about who you are?
Well, like Luke said, my name is CODY. We are brothers. I'm 28, recently married to my beautiful wife, Annalie, and I serve as the program director at Camp Luther over in Mission, BC.
And what is your involvement at Northview Community Church?
I've been a youth leader for the last 3 years and then was involved in youth ministry prior to that here at Northview.
Okay, cool. And so how have you seen yourself live more intentionally with what God has given you, like living on mission?
Yeah, so when it comes to living intentionally, for myself as a youth leader, we have the requirement to take a kid out once a month. And for me, I just see the importance of intentional relationships, sacrificial relationships, and being submissive to what the Lord calls us to do, because Jesus lived on mission with his disciples and didn't just take them out once. He took them out multiple times and built into these guys around him. And so for me, I intentionally seek out my boys more than the average amount of time. I landed up taking off my lunch break at work to go to their schools. I would bring Timbits on Tuesday, so it was called Timbit Tuesday. I'd show up with like 2 50 packs of Timbits, and I would walk around the school to, one, see my boys, and also to know their friends, who was their community, and how can I engage with them on that level, because at youth, yeah, we'd have this awesome turnout of dudes, but I'm like, I want to know who your community is. I want to know you more and more intentionally. And so that ended up meeting through the conversations that I would have at the schools. I would then see these guys that I'd be meeting at the schools come out to youth, and again and again and again, they would bring their friends to the point of where we had numerous amount of students coming out to youth, and being more intentional with those guys meant showing up to things like basketball games, showing up to all their sporting events, showing up to concerts, and doing things that may not bring me a lot of joy, but brought them joy. And so for me as a leader, I need to sacrifice what I find maybe enjoyable for the sake of the mission of what God calls us to do. And so with that, ended up doing, inviting them into my own life. Like I have dinner, so I can invite them over for dinner. I can run errands with my boys. I can do coffee with my boys. I can run around town and shop with my boys, because it's not just like making time, it's how do I have the time that I have that the Lord has given me and use it more intentionally with that time.
Right. So you used a ministry that you're already plugged into at Northview, and you're like, how can I just do more?
Yeah.
How can I be more intentional with what the Lord has given me? I think that's super cool. And so what have you actually had to give up in your life in order to do these things? It must have cost some sort of sacrifice.
Yeah, well, prior to my time as a youth leader, I was heavily involved in directing and acting and teaching theater. And before the Lord led me to become like more of like a full-time youth leader, I had to give up something. So I gave up my theatrical, my artistic side of myself to pursue the ministry, to pursue what the Lord was leading me to, and have seen so much more fruit in giving up something that I still love a lot, but was like, youth ministry is more important. Building disciples is more important. Living out the commission is more important than what this part of my life is. And I hope to come back to that. But on top of giving up that, I had to give up my time. I had to give up money. And yeah, like I work in ministry. I don't have a lot of money, but as being a good steward with what the Lord has given me, I want to give that back to people that, like my high school boys, a lot of them don't have jobs. A lot of them don't have cars. So I pick them up, I take them out, I buy them food. It's not going to be super expensive, but I'm putting my money where my mouth is. If I value discipleship, if I value building into the next generation of leaders or these leaders, I need to invest in that. And that investment does not mean just like my time, but it means my money, it means my resources, it means a lot of things.
So what kind of fruit have you seen come out of this building intentionally?
Well, on top of going to the schools and meeting their friends and seeing their friends come to youth, I've seen those people that have come start to invite more friends, and so there's more of this community sense at youth. And those leaders amongst my boys ended up wanting to know more about Jesus. They wanted to get baptized. They wanted to start serving in the church. And now a lot of my own youth kids are now graduated. They are now pursuing their hopes of like doing what I did for them in a sense. So I have boys that are volunteering now in middle school. I have guys that are wanting to go seek out ministry opportunities and pursue ministry in the school and the bachelor studies level. And so seeing that kind of fruit, but also like seeing guys get stoked on Jesus, seeing guys pumped on sharing the gospel, on living out what it means to be a Christian and choosing Jesus for themselves, not because their youth leader told them to, because they want to. And none of that is my own doing. It's all the Holy Spirit working in their own hearts to reveal the truth to them. So the fruit for me has been watching them own their own faith.
Thanks, Cody, so much for sharing with us of how we can live more intentionally with the ministry context that we're in. Yeah, thanks again.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
And now we have Christine. So Christine, why don't you introduce yourself to the community groups?
My name is Christine REIMER, and we've been attending with our family Northview for the last 8.5 years.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And so in your life, what does it look like for you to live more intentionally with where God has placed you?
I think it starts right from our day-to-day life. I take Jesus with me, whether it's texting or talking on the phone or emailing or face-to-face personally. I don't have it all together, and I've gone through a lot of hardships in my life, and so I find that I can witness to people just by sharing how God has helped me through those difficult times. As an early parent with young children in elementary school, we started a prayer group, and actually we still pray till this day, and now our girls are in high school, just to come together and pray for our community at the school, for the staff, the teachers, and for obviously the kids and the parents and families too. Obviously, here at the church, we have so many ways that we can help out and serve here. And so during Bible study, I was asked to facilitate during Bible study a group of ladies, which has been really encouraging. They probably know more about the Bible than I do, but their wisdom and just how we come together and encourage one another in our faith is fantastic. Also, my husband and I lead a Bible study or a community group in our home, and yeah, even during these times, we're just trying to stay connected. So much so that we started hosting a church at our house on Sundays, which has been awesome outside and just enjoying it.
Oh, awesome.
Locally too, Henry and Carol Jansen, they're part of Fellowship of Christian Farmers, and they do where you share the gospel through handing out walking sticks. And so I've joined them several times, and that has been an eye-opener. Definitely being used by God. Not totally in my comfort zone, but willing to share the gospel to spread it locally here. And then obviously globally too, we've had the opportunity God has put it on our family's heart to go global too, and part of Imani Orphan Care out in Kenya, Africa, where we witnessed to the kids out there. And some of my best moments there are just sitting there and washing the girls' feet and having them sit on these little buckets and just washing their feet and just telling them how precious they are. And then sharing the gospel out there as well too, witnessing one-on-one with people, with an interpreter, and in the churches out there too.
Oh, that's so cool to hear. And so, I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of there to actually unpack. I'm sure we could have lots of hours of conversation talking about all those different things. But where have you seen in your life that you've actually had to sacrifice certain aspects of your life in order to do those things?
Well, first of all, none of those things happened all at once. So I think when you talk about sacrifice, I think it's just sacrifice your own humility and pride, because a lot of people have this assumption, oh, well, you can do it, but I can't. And that's not true, because I don't do it on my own spirit. It's God and the Holy Spirit working through me. So every part of my life, God has stepped in and nudged me a little bit, and just to be willing to open the door and say, okay, show me the next step. And that's what God has done. So I didn't all of a sudden get here or do all these things. You know, it started being a young parent and then working my way up. And
So cool.
Yeah.
And then so where, from those things of like the Spirit working through you, what kind of fruit have you seen actually come through your life through these things?
The fruit that I've seen is, for myself, having a closer relationship with Jesus and seeing it in others too. We can encourage one another. So if we're getting together as girlfriends and talking, and then it leads to prayer each time, that's fellowship, right? We've talked about that before.
Yeah.
We've seen people actually give themselves to Christ, right? That does happen.
Right.
We can't always assume that everyone knows who God is. And even in our neighborhood, like it's safe to say God, because many other faiths believe in a God too. But when I say the name Jesus, well, that changes the conversation instantly. So definitely seeing the fruit of how God works through his people. There's a song Matthew West sings, Do Something. And the premise of the song is about, like all these things are happening in the world, and God, why don't you do something? And he said, I did, I created you. So it's a real reminder that we're just called to just step out of our comfort zone and just love the people around us well, wherever we are in, whether in an office, whether in a school, wherever.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Christine, for sharing. I'm sure there's going to be so much discussion on what Christine, what you had to say for all of us. So thank you so much for sharing.
Thanks for having me.
And now we have Jim. Jim, why don't you introduce yourself to the community groups?
Okay, Jim Bird, and my wife and I have attended Northview Mission for close to 2.5 years now, and been involved in various things from community groups, door greeters, Northview kids, photography team.
Amazing. So what areas of your life have you seen yourself live more intentionally and living on mission in Mission?
Well, in Mission, the neighborhood that we live in, and because of the way my work is, usually I have afternoons free, and my wife and I do a lot of walking, and I mean a lot of walking. So we got about a 5-kilometer radius, and we've been meeting neighbors, and the Lord has just led us to various people, and sometimes the conversations, depending on the individual, it takes a while, but other folks we've established a relationship in these 2.5 years, and I look at it that every person that comes in front of me it's not a coincidence. It didn't just happen. God has a purpose, and can't always see what the outcome is, but every person, you know, I try to pray every day that the Lord will lead me to someone who needs what I have in Jesus Christ today.
That's good. What other ministries outside of Northview and outside walking have you been involved with in the past couple years or whatever?
Well, being an old guy, that covers a lot of years, one ministry that we were involved with for quite a while was the Christian motorcycle ministry. And so that, we really focused on, and just because of the nature of it, a lot of brokenness, a lot of dysfunction, addictions. Yeah, it was a full gamut there, so that was one area. We also, or I was also involved with Christian Service Brigade, with men working with boys, and again, we had boys from outside of the church community, and
so very relational thing. That is okay, cool. And so, in order to do those kind of ministries, what have you had to sacrifice or give up in your life in order to do those?
Well, the biggest thing has been time. I'm a person who can through hobbies, etc., can fill every minute of my day.
Right.
And quite often I get involved in whatever it is that I want to do, but need to give that up. And so that has been a sacrifice. There has been also stepping outside of the comfort zone. I refer to some of the folks that we met through the motorcycle ministry, and yeah, it's some of them were just, they were outside of your comfort zone.
Right, for sure. And through those ministries, what kind of fruit have you seen in your life take shape?
Well, there's been a lot of long-term relationships. I can think of with, for example, with working with the boys. We had one boy who, I know everyone said this kid's a problem, and he went from grade 2, and I had him right through his teen years, because the ministry ministered to boys right through the teen years.
Right.
He later on became one of my leaders. He later on became very solid spiritually. Today he's a solid, he's got a family, he's very solid there. He is a leader in his church.
Right.
He recently went through a horrendous traffic accident. He witnessed everybody in the whole hospital, the staff, and people. It was amazing. I think back to what he was like when we started.
Oh, that's cool to see the relationship take place, and for you to really just mentor these younger people and walk alongside them. Yeah, Jim, thanks so much for sharing with us. And now we give it back to Freddie.
All right.
Thanks, Luke. As you can see, there's a huge emphasis on relationship, and more importantly, on pre-existing relationships. What all of these people did is continue connecting with the people they already knew, with the youth they were already involved with the community group that they were already participating in, and with people who already lived on their street. There is a cost to this kind of lifestyle, to being a Christian, to living in a manner that makes Jesus known and that loves and serves your neighbors. But it always bears fruit. And hopefully you saw in those stories that it's worth the cost. Now what? Now what your group needs to do is take some time right now before you move on to the next thing, before you talk about whatever it is that you're going to discuss tonight in your group, or about the weather, or about school, and you need to make a plan. What are you going to do as an individual, as a family, or as a community group? We've covered commission in these last 3 videos, and hopefully you have enough now to not just start the conversation, but to actually make a plan of a person or a place where you're going to invest, you're going to connect, and you're going to seek to be intentional in your conversations and in the ways that you help those people. I want to give you one last little quick tip. As you make this plan, please be smart about it. Right? If you're familiar with the acronym SMART, it means be specific in your goals. You want to name things that you're actually going to do with as much detail as you plan on doing them. It needs to be measurable. A person that I'm going to meet within this amount of time at this place, it needs to be attainable. It needs to be something that you can actually accomplish. It needs to be relevant. It needs to be someone that you're already connected with, an organization you're already aware of, and there needs to be a timestamp on it. The hope in all of this is that you would walk away not just with some ideas about what you could do, but with a plan about what you will do. If you have any questions related to anything I covered in this video or the previous 2, I would love to connect with you. Feel free to phone, email, text, call, whatever, and we'll talk about what it would take to move your group into this direction. Our hope here at Northview is that everyone would be growing in our church. And we want to start with this. Our goal this fall is to grow in commission, and I hope that you can partner with me in that way.